What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So yesterday we had that Xbox Games Showcase event, and after going through it a few times to double check everything, I kind of got to the end and said, that was pretty good. It was all right, I think. It didn't blow me away. When I go into these next-gen events, I expect to be blown away, especially like from a visual side of things. But I really wasn't. We're going to go over all that today, along with all of the different announcements and really what I thought about everything there in the show. Also, we have to talk about Ghost of Tsushima because the sales are pretty good for this game. In fact, it's actually breaking records for Sony in Japan. As always, guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure to hit the like button, helps out a ton. And if you're brand new here, hit that red subscribe button down below as we head towards 500,000 subscribers. And we're going to start today with Halo Infinite. Yes, that was a very big part of the overall show for Microsoft because it is their big holiday title, and it was the one game of the show that had any substantial gameplay, like, at all. It had over 8 minutes worth of gameplay where we ran through a level, but there was some interesting information that has come out since the event took place, and that is that it wasn't even running on an Xbox. They were running it off of a PC. Now, PC Gamers N had the report on this one mentioning that the entire part that we looked at, that slice of the level, takes place about halfway through the game, and the human companion we saw with Master Chief is kind of like his sidekick or his foil throughout the game, so it sounds like there will be some fun interactions there going through the campaign, but they just ran it off of a PC that is quote-unquote representative of what the Series X will be able to do, and it seems strange to me, not necessarily that they are running off of a PC, because that tends to happen with early builds in different events, especially at E3. They would just run it off of a PC, a build that they've checked, several times to make sure it's not crashing or anything crazy's happening, and maybe they'll turn on God mode or any of that stuff. But the fact that they want to push the Series X and they keep talking about how powerful it is, and then they don't even run it off the thing, was a little weird, especially if they said everything you see here is being powered by an Xbox Series X in real time. Halo Infinite had its visual issues, but still, it was Halo, it was running smooth, and they're saying 4K 60. I mean, why not run it off the Series X and really show off what it can do? Also, I've seen a lot of people want a PlayStation 5 variant of some kind, even at launch, like Spider-Man 1 alongside of the Spider-Man Miles Morales release. That'll be really cool. I've also seen people want like a matte black PlayStation 5 to go alongside of the white two-tone color. There's a lot of requests, I will say, for custom editions, but it looks like there will be one this December. It's just going to be gold-plated. Yeah, it's also probably going to cost thousands of dollars. Check these out right here. These are from the London-based luxury retailer Truly Exquisite. It's going to have a line of these gold-plated systems. We're going to have gold, platinum, and rose gold PlayStation 5 consoles. They're coming out this December, and I got to be honest, I don't really know who's going to buy these. I mean, I guess people with mountains of disposable income that are like, yeah, I don't mind if my PlayStation 5 is gold-plated, and sure, it might have cost me $5,000, but look at it. I mean, the PlayStation 5, obviously, the look of it has been very polarizing. So sure, just gold-plated. There we go, right? I guess look out for that. I'm going to go out on a limb and say $4,000 to $5,000 maybe for it. December, though, I guess you can check it out. We'll see how limited that supply is. Oh, and one of the big reveals during that Xbox Games Showcase in the pre-show was that Dragon Quest XI S Definitive Edition was going to be going to the Xbox, and it turns out the PlayStation 4 and the PC. So it looks like Nintendo had a 1-year exclusivity on that package. There's a lot of extra content there. It's been the one to go to. Straight up, right? Even just take portability out of it, even for the Switch, just the amount of stuff they added in there, completely worth it. I mean, the 16-bit mode, it's really, really cool, right? But the thing with this is very strange. If you go over to the FAQ that they released, they talk about how they are just porting the Switch version over, so it will technically look worse. They even say kind of downgraded from the PlayStation 4 and current PC build. But then on top of that, if you have already purchased the vanilla version of Dragon Quest XI on the PlayStation 4 or the PC, you'll have to re-buy this one. And their only answer to that is when someone asked, or in the FAQ is asked, hey, can we just upgrade through a patch since we've already bought the game? It just says, unfortunately, no. That was the answer. It's going to Game Pass day one on the Xbox. So if you have Game Pass, you're pretty much already in, and I'd say you gotta check this game out. But you gotta admit, if I bought it on the PlayStation 4 and I bought it on the PC, I I'd be kind of frustrated right now because they're saying, hey, you want the rest of the extra content? It's basically a $40 patch for you. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We're gonna start right away with that Microsoft Xbox Games Showcase event. It was about an hour long and they had over 22 different games here. And Microsoft had, I believe, 9 of their first party studios ready to show something off here. And there were some good spots to this event. It was certainly not a bad event. There are a lot of people online who say it was just bad. No, it wasn't a bad event for the most part, but there were definitely some lulls and then there were definitely some high points that were kind of in between all of that. I don't know if it flowed together the best, and there was really not a lot of gameplay there, and that might be an indicator of how far along some of these games are. Maybe, but we'll be going through all of these here. Of course, they open with Halo Infinite, made a ton of sense. I did a video on the second channel going through the gameplay trailer that they did release because, like I said, it was 8.5 minutes long or so, and it showcased some interesting aspects of the game. Visually, it almost looks like Halo Infinite isn't quite ready to be shown off yet. It certainly doesn't scream next gen. Now, this is, of course, an Xbox One game as well, so to me, it's an Xbox One game being moved to the Series X. A ray tracing patch will be coming afterwards, which is, again, odd, right? But they at least said it's a free patch. Sure, okay. But it does look like they won't be making another Halo game for quite a while, as this, according to 343, they want this to be a 10-year project that they continue to update. Sounds like game as a service, but they say it's not a games as a service. We'll see. There's still a lot of questions I have for this game, specifically the multiplayer. That's something that can save it. Now, from there, we're gonna go over several of the games. We had Avowed, which is Obsidian's large-scale role-playing game. So the only issue I have with this one is, once again, not a lot was shown. I mean, we had some magic, we had a sword, really, really cool. I was getting some Skyrim vibes maybe from it, but like, it was like 30 or 40 seconds and that was it. I mean, sure, Obsidian probably has a ways to go with this game, as well as several of the other studios, but just anything else, I guess, would have been great to see. But Avowed, that's a game that really stuck out to me. I'm looking forward to it. I have a lot of trust in Obsidian to deliver on something like that, so that was a good reveal. Forza Motorsport appears to just be moving to Forza Motorsport. Like, it's not Motorsport 8. It looks like they're just naming it Forza Motorsport and going forward from there, which is interesting. That looked good, though. All of their car games generally look really, really good. Turn 10 knows exactly what they're doing with those. State of Decay 3 is good. That's Undead Labs. State of Decay 2 was I'll say a buggy mess when it came out, but they did work on it over time, and I think for the most part, they, at the end, mastered the kind of the zombie survival series, so that is something I'll keep an eye on with that one. Crossfire X is getting a campaign as they premiered it during the showcase. Warhammer 40k Dark Tide was also shown. Another one I would have liked to have seen a little bit more about, but they did say that one is coming in 2021, so still plenty of time to showcase that. Phantasy Star Online 2 is getting an expansion, New Genesis, so that is really cool, by the way, to see Phantasy Star 2 continue to get more and more content. I do like that a lot. Medium really stuck out to me because I think out of all the games here, Medium truly looks next gen, and they were showing what appeared to be gameplay flashes at times. It is like this horror, they're kind of gonna pull on some of the mind tricks, it seems, make it kind of like a psychotic horror style game. And what they're doing is they're rendering 2 different versions of the game at the same time, and it looks like you'll be changing between them, or maybe seeing them both at the same time. That could have some really cool things happening there, and that is another one that really stuck out to me. The Gunk was also shown off. This is from the developers of SteamWorld. Always interested to see what they have for us, and this looks like it's going to be a bit more ambitious than what they've been doing, which is really cool. Tetris Effect Connected looks like it's going to have multiplayer. Tetris Effect is really cool in VR. I'll be curious to see how it kind of translates over to the Xbox with multiplayer. That is at least pretty interesting. A game that we haven't had a new one for a while, 13 years actually, with Stalker 2. That is apparently going to launch on the Xbox Series X, so interesting. It's going to be exclusive to the Xbox platform. I think it's going to be a timed exclusive, but hey, Stalker fans probably were a little surprised at that one to see it at an Xbox event, but there you go. Pretty cool on that one. Destiny 2 is going to have a patch, and it looks like it's also going to Game Pass. It'll support 60 frames per second on the Xbox Series X. Psychonauts 2 got an update, and it looks good. Look, I like the first Psychonauts a lot. If you have not played it, it's a bit older, but I recommend going back to play it. I remember that was one, I think, that was even on Game Tap back in the day. Yeah, who out there remembers Game Tap? I'm almost positive that was on there, and I remember loading up on my PC and just had a blast with them, but I also played it back in the day on the original Xbox as well. But Psychonauts 2, looking forward to that one as well. That was, however, pushed to 2021, so we'll have to wait a little longer for it. Then we also had a look at As Dusk Falls. We saw Grounded as well. That's the other project from Obsidian. I believe that's going to be launching pretty soon on Early Access Game Pass. I think that's in just a couple of days now. The Outer Worlds got some new DLC, which is cool. Tell Me Why from Don't Nod was also shown off during the presentation. Everwild is interesting because while I like the art style and direction they're going with it, apparently they haven't shown us much. This came out in an interview afterwards, because they're still working out gameplay ideas. That tells me that Rare is still a ways off with Everwild. So again, kind of a theme across a lot of this presentation. Balan Wonderworld. This is great for Sean because this could be his AAA Knights game. That's from Yuji Naka, and this was really neat. This was part of the pre-show, but I liked the look of it a lot, right? It's an action game, and for the most part, it looks like it's going to all the different platforms, but I did like the look of it, and it had that Knights kind of aesthetic, so I'll be keeping an eye on that one. Hello Neighbor 2 was also there. Echo Generation, that was also another strange one. The visuals in that looked really, really cool, but then we also had Watch Dogs Legion, Exo Mecha, which was a first-person shooter, but then they also had mechs in there. That game did look kind of next generation, which was cool. And then we also had Dragon Quest XI S, of course, to round out the pre-show. And then, of course, to finish off the presentation, they hit us with Fable. Fable didn't have any gameplay, okay? It didn't even have a full cinematic. It was like 20 seconds, but it looks like it's going to have that Fable humor to it, and its playground from the very small amount that they showed us that was clearly like just a little cinematic teaser. I'm on board at least because I'm happy that Fable is coming back, but we don't know much about it. Like, they just said, hey, look, Fable, and it's like, awesome. I'm really happy to hear that Fable's back. Once again, though, it sounds like they're not that far along in it, and Fable might be a 2022 game. It's definitely just a Series X game, which that'll be one to look forward to. But I mean, that's the game that Microsoft could have put up probably next to Horizon based on Playground's track record. They know what they're doing with open worlds. That's their, I guess, comparison to Horizon, but it's not gonna be ready for a while, and Horizon's gonna be ready in like the first half of next year. So it's a shame we didn't see more of Fable, but I am very excited. That was one of the big announcements for me. Obviously, Halo and Fable, the two big ones for me personally, but there was quite a bit of variety, a lot of announcements here, and according to Phil Spencer, I think almost everything except maybe Crossfire X, maybe? I think almost everything here was going to Game Pass. So that's cool too, especially if you're a Game Pass subscriber now. You're just kicking back and looking at all the stuff you're probably just gonna download over the next 2 years anyway. But I think they still have a few more things they need to show us, as not all of their studios were there, like The Initiative, and I mean, come on, Microsoft, you gotta do something with Banjo. Nintendo teed that up, right? They got the tee out, they put the ball right on there, and they said, hey, go ahead, knock it out of the park. And Microsoft didn't even try to take a swing at it. So, hey, look, you still got August, you still have September, October working up to the release. Let's see what The Initiative's working on, and let's see a Banjo-Kazooie game, a new one. Here's hoping. But overall, the presentation for me was, it was all right. Next up, let's talk about Ghost of Tsushima, because this is a game that I am really enjoying right now. I pretty much play it every night for several hours on end. There's a lot to this game, but at this point, I think I'm just gonna start rolling through it to get the game done, and then turn around and do some of the extra stuff. But I was curious to see how it would do in Japan specifically, because critics in Japan really seem to like this game. It does seem like Sucker Punch, a Western studio, did a lot of research and got a lot of things right with the Japanese influence in this game. So to see how the audience in Japan would respond when it comes to buying the game, specifically just on the PlayStation 4, would be interesting. And here we go with the sales charts right here with Ghost of Tsushima at the top, 212,915. That's pretty good, I would say, for a game from Sony and a Western studio with Sucker Punch. In fact, that is the best launch week for a PlayStation game, beating out The Last of Us Part 2 even, and Death Stranding in Japan for that launch week. That's really, really good, I would say, for Sucker Punch and Ghost of Tsushima. Paper Mario was right below that at 109,092. So yeah, Ghost of Tsushima, outsold Paper Mario by over 100,000 units. Very impressive stuff there. Animal Crossing New Horizons is just always in the top 5, by the way, 71,897. Then we had Ring Fit Adventure. Then we had Baseball, Powerful Pro on both the Switch and then the PlayStation 4. Clubhouse Games 51, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Together the Battle Cats, and then Pokemon Sword and Shield rounding out the top 10. But if we move over to hardware, there's some interesting stuff happening here. The Switch is at the top, 113,197. That is up pretty well, 17,000 units from the week prior, but the PlayStation 4 sold 4,523 despite having Ghost of Tsushima launching this past week, selling over 200,000 units. It does seem now that maybe it's the next gen hype looking forward to the PS5, people are holding off, or to be honest, the PlayStation 4 may have reached its limit at just over 9 million units in Japan compared to something like the Switch, which is coming up on 15 million here very rapidly. The 3DS at 903, and then the Xbox One at 31. So overall, pretty good week, I would say, pretty good launch 2 days for both Ghost of Tsushima and Paper Mario. Ghost, though, obviously a standout here. I'll be curious to see how it does going forward. Does it drop off right away like we saw what happened with Last of Us Part 2 and even Death Stranding? Those were gone from the charts almost immediately. Or is this kind of an oddball for Sony and it sticks around in the top 10 for months maybe? That'll be something to follow, but hey, great work there from Sucker Punch, obviously nailing the research and getting things correct for that time period in history. And the Japanese audience seemed to really like this game and responded well to it. And hey, Paper Mario at over 100,000 units. Pretty good week for games. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Ubisoft, because they did address the question of $60 games versus $70 games going into this holiday. We do know that NBA 2K21 will indeed be $70 on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. 2K has confirmed that at this point, but there is still the question of other games coming from other companies and how much they would be. Well, as you can see here, Jason Schreier did confirm that Ubisoft said on today's earnings call that their next-gen games this fall will be the same price as current-gen games, $60. Take-Two had announced that NBA 2K21 will be $70 on PS5 and Xbox Series X. Now, the big question here, because we already know you could pre-order them, and I believe they're already up for $6 anyway, it's going to be what happens after this year ends. Like January 1st, in their mind, do all of a sudden all of the PS5 and Xbox Series X games go up to $70 in their mind? Do they jump $10? I kind of think they might do it, right? Especially if Take-Two and 2K say, hey, I mean, everyone still bought NBA games from us, and I mean, that's the only game. So yeah, that's the only basketball game now with NBA Live going on like hiatus or something. I mean, they have a bit of an advantage there in the market, but there's only one Assassin's Creed, I guess, whenever Ubisoft decides to release it as the newest one. You can go back and play the old ones, but if you want the new one, maybe you will have to pay $70 going forward. It's going to be interesting to see what happens going into next year from a lot of these big publishers and developers if they push those games up $10 across the board. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This one is from GameBit saying, you nailed it when you said more games for your backlog. Remember the good old days when you were young and could only afford or could only get a few games a year? Well, it wasn't really that bad because you would actually near 100% the game. Nowadays, it's like do the minimum to beat the game and then move on. Too many games out there. Well, a lot of that had to really do with how quickly the internet got intertwined with games, specifically delivering them to you. Back then, not only did you have only certain points of the year because you were younger, right, to go out and get a game, but a lot of free-to-play games didn't exist like they do now, where you can go on the Switch, the Xbox, the PlayStation, and your PC, and you can just download Fortnite. It's just there, or Warzone, or several free-to-play games now, and you can just play those. We would have to wait until our parents either took us to rent a game, or it was close to Christmas or a birthday, and we were able to luckily pick out a game to buy. So at that point, you're right. We would have to 100% the game because that's the only cartridge we had. So, hey, I got to know Rome really, really well, and Mario's missing. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. Enjoyed this video, guys? Hit the like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether there's the Xbox Games Showcase. I wanna hear your thoughts and how you felt about the event, because I saw a lot of different opinions. Some people just outright hated the thing, and then other people were like mid on it, kind of like me, and then some people just really liked what they saw. I think that excitement of Fable really got people over the top too, which is cool. You know, Fable's a fun series to see come back. And then also, what do you think about Ghost of Tsushima getting those kind of sales in Japan on Sony's platform, even breaking the record for the best launch week for a Sony PlayStation 4 game in Japan? Thanks guys for watching. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for Newswave.